our next presenter is Craig Mackay. Where are you, Craig?
Hi.
Hello, Craig. And Craig is representing Sharktower. And I think you specialize a lot in the behavioral aspects, or you got interest in behaviors, change, transformation, those kinds of areas, but also allied to the use of a word that many know about, but that not many people understand or know how to grapple with, which is AI, artificial intelligence. So over to you, Craig. Welcome.
Thank you. Let me share my screen. So I will try and give some context very quickly in 15 minutes. As Steve introduced, I'm CEO and co-founder of Sharktower. We focus on trying to make project delivery more data-driven and utilize machine learning and AI to do that. We focus not in capital construction projects per se, but actually in the more fluffy, ambiguous stuff, such as people change and transformation and digital change and innovation, and the stuff that actually businesses waste thousands and thousands and millions on, probably unseen. And that's a tricky thing to do, but hopefully I'll give you some context and some takeaways about how you can start applying some automation, some elements of AI and predictability, but also what we do in Sharktower as well, for some thinking as well. So all in 15 minutes, which is going to be impressive. So why we call Sharktower, just a little bit of an aside, just like a tower on a beach tries to look for the ripples in the sea, the shadows on the horizon of sharks approaching, and puts up a flag, we try to do the same thing for project delivery. So our main goal is to help project managers spot risks before they occur. So what does AI in project management mean then? Very quickly, PwC did a good report in 2018 that talks about it perfectly in the 3 layers. There is integration and automation. There is machine learning based project management, and that's actually where we focus in Sharktower, and there's autonomous project management. That's our vision. Actually, how can you fully automate the scheduling, the rescheduling, the scenario, the risk analysis, the modeling, the distribution of resources? It's easier to build an autonomous self-driving car than it is to do that. Believe me, and I'll touch on that. So I actually want to talk about these 3 things just to give some context, some takeaways for you, but also then just show a little bit what we do in Sharktower in the middle one. So I'll start on integration and automation. I think this is the first part where everybody should be starting in projects, whatever industry you're working in and whatever role you are. And really, it's about streamlining and automating the mundane we do. Certainly in large enterprises that we work at, it's 30 to 50% of project management effort is wasted on manually copying and pasting data and chasing information and creating reports. So even automating that is going to be a step change in the money wasted. And it's actually quite commoditized already. So, if you look at basic RPA, robotic process automation, a lot of that stuff actually is rule-based, but you can also get attended and unattended that actually monitor you as a project manager or any role, and actually what do you do next? Every time you get this bit of information, or every time you receive that notification, you always do this action. So actually, should I do that for you next time and automate it? And it's really good for moving files, for capturing tasks, for structuring data. And then you can start looking at, NLP and other AI forms and other stuff that can really start to understand, and some of the stuff that we just heard about there, you can understand what's going on in documents and classify emails and classify work. But, this is, a lot of it is also really available. Interesting, we always get asked, what does Sharktower integrate with? And I went, well, what do you integrate with? So integration automation is really open. Look at tools like UiPath. It's got great layers of sophistication in terms of RPA and automation, but also really simple, do this, do that. Zapier is a great one, but most people are Microsoft houses, and you have got Power Apps, Power Automate, which used to be Flow, virtual agents, which again are RPA bots. And ultimately, these can be creating triggers of when I receive this information, or when something changes on my project, tell me about it. So instead of trying to create a control so change doesn't happen in your project as a PMO or a controls team, actually, why not create a trigger that says if something changes that artifact or that plan, trigger me. So then I can go and look and check, as opposed to creating lots of processes to stop change. My watch out though is, this is what a typical environment that we go to looks like. Information is all over the place. And if you just automate that data, which is not really representative of true delivery, there's 400 different views of it. The vendors got a different view. The different suppliers have got different views. The different teams are using different tools. Everyone's got a different view, and it's all subjective and it's filtered. So be careful what you automate, because you might just be making bad decisions faster. And actually, that's one of the things we try to tackle with Sharktower, is all this replace this noise. The other scale is the autonomous project. So, and our vision in Sharktower is to build an autonomous project that can navigate humans on the optimal route to the intended outcome. But delivering outcomes is really hard. So this is a very quick slide I did this morning. It's really crappy. But to do outcome delivery, you need some form of business performance. You need something to help you. You need people performance to help you deliver it. You need supply chain. You need to have some level of certainty. What am I trying to deliver? And do I have the knowledge to do it? Then supply chain is affected by cost of goods. Business performance is affected by consumer behavior, which is the markets. The people performance is affected by well-being. Social economics affect how your people perform, your project teams perform. The environment affects it. That, actually, I can't get to site because it's flooded, or the supply chains in China has been disrupted for something. Politics, internal politics, global politics affect it. They all affect each other. I got bored drawing arrows. So if you think you want to model the autonomous project, you have to be able to try and model all these different systems. So, it's a very complex thing, and it's easier to build the autonomous car that can self-drive. However, there is lots of stuff we can do now. Machine learning is excellent at finding patterns and outlines in data. So actually looking at historical data, finding network analysis across connected dependencies. AI is definitely better at scheduling. And also it can spot trends when we're actually delivering of what's going on. However, historically, we've got really, really bad data. Certainly in the obviously environments we work in more ambiguous change, but I think the same thing still happens in construction. We have a lot of data on what the schedule was, what the contract was, or what the estimates were, but we don't really have that much data to tell us what really, really happened. And quite often, people just report on governance. So there's a challenge with that. And we are reliant on experts inputting stuff into the system. But there's a lot we can do. So one of the things we do in Sharktower is look at network effect and dependency effects of multiple schedules, of the risk and uncertainty. And then we start to apply various modeling techniques and simulations such as Monte Carlo to try and look at the probability of estimates. So instead of doing your lowest estimate, your highest estimate, we can actually do stuff a lot more sophisticated and at a much greater scale by applying something such as Monte Carlo. Now, not got time to go into the big thing, but I would go look at RiskAmp, not related to us, but it's a really good little Excel tool. I think there's a free version, but you can also buy a cheap version. It's also got a really good explanation of how you can start applying some of those techniques to your own scheduling data and do really smart sensitivity analysis and Monte Carlo simulations of expected but actually probable scheduling. So have a look at that. Some of that stuff underpins what we do in Sharktower. So what do? We actually try and focus on a number of things in Sharktower. We look at sentiment of the team, who's engaged, why, because all those people factors, we can't model that yet. So let's try and measure how the team are reflecting that in the way they write their work or talk about their work. We look at project health score. So that's looking at data across all the different factors. And then we look at project slippage, which is some of that network effect, dependency modeling, and Monte Carlo simulation. So what do we think is going to happen? So very quickly, I'll just flip into Sharktower. Hopefully you can tell me if you're not seeing an application now. Good, there's a thumbs up, thanks Andy. So this is Sharktower. This is a typical live status report of a project showing the sort of normal things, outcomes, milestones, all driven by our dependency-based planning tool that doesn't care what you are, shows dependencies across work, external work, internal work, and all underlying tasks. But what that does, as well as giving you the normal, well, it's not so normal, but it's give you live status reports of actual activity closes. We're also doing some smarter stuff. So team sentiment analysis looks at the way that you write all stuff in Sharktower. So the way that you comment on work, the way that you create the work. We're looking for negative, positive, ambiguous language, and also that project lexicon of, is that a good project term or bad? And we're trying to find out what work is influencing the team's engagement. Because we all know if our team becomes disengaged, obviously the project's going to start to slip. And actually your people are a good indicator if you're off track, or if they don't believe in the project, or they don't have the resources to do the new work you've thrown at them. So we look at the sentiment over time, and we look for big drops, sometimes big peaks as well, because hopefully it's because of success, but sometimes it could be the team are getting stressed or frivolous. And then we say, look at this work. We think this work here is having the biggest effect. So we'll drill into it, see what's going on, look at the history of it. So we're trying to give project managers, especially with disparate teams, a way to find out what's really going on. Project Health does something very similar, but it's looking at everything from risks, it's looking at the quality of information, the velocity, it's looking at resource allocation. Again, it's trying to give a quantified version of RAG status that can augment the human reporting by actually we can try and measure and quantify this a bit more. And again, it's trying to see what things are having the biggest impact to the quality of your project delivery. So again, go and make that work better. And the other one, which is a bit easier to understand, is that project slippage. This looks like it was slipped by well over a year because this project's not live and there's not got any activity happening in it. But again, what that's doing is modeling all the dependencies, looking at certainty, confidence, and risk across that dependency network of work and resources. And then it's doing Monte Carlo simulation, looking at what's most likely to happen when we run this simulation. 90% of the time, it looks like it's going to slip by a significant amount. Instead of trying to plan the whole thing to the nth degree, we actually try to help project managers focus and say, well, go focus on those activities, that work breakdown just now, because that bit of work breakdown is having the biggest impact. And if you keep focusing on the things that have an impact of potential slippage, hopefully you increase the probability all the time. So that's what we're trying to do in Sharktower, is always trying to look at where's the uncertainty, decrease uncertainty, get that better all the time, and that will make probability more likely of outcomes. So that was a very fast snapshot of what we're trying to do. We know it's really, really hard to model projects. We know we can start now. You have to treat it like a pinch of salt. It's augmented intelligence now that's giving you indicators. But if you want to know any more, also, I would suggest go look at our e-expert book from 7 experts that can tell you what might happen with AI and project management.
Thank you, Mark. See, it wasn't so challenging, was it? You've saved some time there.
I did that pretty well. If anybody
well within the envelope, so very well done. Have you actually done any work to link the findings on the changes and the variations in probability? I mean, are you able to link that to profitability as well, in some sense?
That's our core goal, Steve, actually, is to have live business case. So we do map it to OKRs, or like objectives and key results. My vision is to build a live business cases with the value levers and the whole value tree, so that when that scope changes, but also when people then increase the probability of the project, the probability of getting that result to the business is also modeled as well. Also, likewise, when the business external factors change and you don't need that outcome anymore because, let's say your customers have disappeared, then actually you know that and you stop the project. So that is part of the vision. We do a lot of behavioral analysis and feedback loops to see if we suggest things and people do it, does that have a better impact? So that's one of the things we're doing all the time is testing that, because that's what we want ultimately. We show this data so people can have better results. Yeah, fantastic. Okay, thanks. Very interesting.